Hello, beauties. Welcome to Mom's Unboxed, a podcast where I unbox with you the how to's, tips, and tricks to empower women to upgrade relationships, intimacy, and parenting. I'm your host, Melanie Caroline, a multidimensional woman, life coach, lover, and mom who's made a lot of fucking mistakes. If you want to live a sensual and liberated life, you've come to the right space. Don't forget to follow Mom's Unboxed because you don't want to miss an episode. Welcome to another episode of Moms Unboxed. Thank you so much for joining me this week. I am so excited about this week's topic. And we have such a special guest. Her name is Jojo from the Inside Out podcast, where she talks about the messy from the inside out. Hello, Jojo, and welcome.
Hey, Melanie. Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited you're here with me. Just a little bit behind the scenes of how our friendship developed. We were at Podfest 2025 and she invited me to sit down and have dinner with this group of people. And I was a lone stir. I have no idea. I didn't know anybody at all.
I didn't either.
That's true. She invited me over, and this woman and I just started going in real deep about some real deep topics about body, relationships, knowing our intuition, and just like, I don't know, having some real deep conversation, which is my favorite type of conversation. Those are the only type of conversations we have on this podcast. So today we are going to be unboxing, listening to your intuition within the realm of relationships, specifically toxic relationships, because I know you, mama. You've had some toxic relationships, and so have I. I think most of us have experienced some toxicity in relationships. What do you think, Jojo?
Oh boy. I mean, I certainly have. I'm not a mom yet, but I have definitely been in some relationships that could have ended sooner than they did. And the flags were there. They were waving. They were scarlet red. And I just stayed. Even though my body and my whole soul was like, run, girl, for the hills and faster.
Yes. Our intuition, when we really tap into our higher self or the universe or God, whatever deity that you have a relationship with, our intuition can be so like in your face, so clear, and we still don't listen. And why do you think this is, Jojo?
You know, I've been asking myself this question for quite a bit of time now. And I think we're scared. I think when we feel something and we're in a situation, there's a level of control that we feel like we have over it. And instead of just stepping back and being like, yeah, what's like the reality of the situation and dropping that in? And I do this thing where I have conversations out loud with myself. That's my form of connection to my higher self, my higher power, creation, whatever, let's use the word God, is your version. And I speak out loud and I bounce my own feelings off of nothing but the ceiling so that I'm able to kind of hear my own feedback loop and try to figure out really what I'm feeling and what I'm thinking. And it's a scary thing because you say things that you're like, oh my gosh, do I really feel that? And that's been kind of my process.
Yes. And we all have our own processes in tapping into our divine guidance, our higher self. And it's when we really tap in, when we really drop from our mind and into our bodies, that we know what is real for us, what is aligned for us. But oftentimes, when we're in these toxic relationships, there's so many other components that we have to think about when it comes to leaving the relationship. One, we have to understand where might our next steps be. And oftentimes our higher self doesn't tell you the entire plan. It just tells you need to get the fuck out. Like this relationship's not good for you. And that's where like the scarcity mindset comes in, where we're like, sure, this relationship might not be good for me. And I understand that on a logical level. But my mind, my body, and my heart, they're not aligned at all. My mind's telling me I need to go, my heart's telling me to stay, and my body is, like, just in panic mode, and I don't know what
Absolutely.
to and so we have to remember, like, we know what we need at our core and in our body. Our body knows, our spirit knows, but we have to drop in and listen.
And I think there's something very interesting that you said there where what your question to me was why do we stay? And I think cuz we know there's going to be a high high and a low low and we're kind of used to this roller coaster and this like up down, and the minute we break that cycle or veer off, it's a complete question mark. And I don't think people like the unknown. So it's almost easier in a way for me in the relationships that I stayed a little too long in, that were expired for lack of a better word, was because I at least knew what was going to happen. And that gave me that level of control rather than just completely being like belly up in a way and just being like, okay, like now what? And I don't think people are okay with the now what, because that's almost scarier. And I think fear is a huge reason of why people stay. It's why I stayed. And yeah, it's not an easy thing. And you love this person. Otherwise, you wouldn't put yourself through this. And then you know the good sides of them, but you know the bad sides of them. And it's not linear, it's really murky.
Yes, it is very murky. It's much more complicated than we want to realize, especially for those who advocate for women to get out of a toxic relationship. It's not as easy as just leave, right? Even though I do like to say on my podcast, just fucking go, because I've been in that toxic relationship, but it's not that easy, especially when there's kids involved. So, although in your mind you might know, yes, I need to get out of this relationship, it is the unknown. And there's a lot of fear in diving into the unknown. And there's a lot of trust within yourself that needs to be had. And a lot of women who are in toxic relationships, they feel shame and guilt around, well, if I stay, I feel like shit. If I go, I feel like shit. So either way, they feel like there's just no out. So what's the point of listening to my intuition? What's the point of listening to my higher self? Because either way,
Mhm.
I'm not in a good situation.
It's like there's no silver lining when you're in it.
Right. No silver lining.
But there is. There
Yeah, I was just gonna say, but
absolutely
there
is. On
is.
the other side of that dark, dark, dark hellhole. And to kind of dive into my situation, this was, gosh, I guess 8 years ago at this point. I was with someone, I was living with them, and unfortunately, they had drug addiction and alcohol addiction issues. And they were sober when we started dating, and they started to introduce this stuff back into their life, unbeknownst to me. And there were days where he was completely blacked out at any hour of the day. And sometimes he was really good at masking it. Like he was very good at not letting me see that he was completely gone. And he was really good at lying. And there would be times that I would come home and I couldn't get in the apartment because he had like dead bolted the door and then fallen asleep. And I'm like trapped outside. There would be times where I would get home and he would be very aggressive physically. And there was other times that he wouldn't come home at all for days. And that left me in such a panic because I don't know if he was alive. I don't know if he was cheating on me. There were so many horrible iterations of what I went through. And luckily, this happened after 2 years. And I was only with him for 2.5 years. But the last 6 months were me trying to wrap my head around, how do I leave? Because we have a lease together. We live in New York. He moved across the country to be with me because we met in Arizona before I moved to New York for school and etc. And he moved across the country to be with me. So there was a lot that I was unpacking and consciously trying to uncouple in my mind, but knowing that we had such a beautiful relationship before this all transpired, and stepping away from that and really honoring my boundaries and my limitations and also my physical body. Like, he was putting his hands on me. He was disrespecting me. I found out later he had cheated on me with 6 people. And physically, that puts me at a huge risk health wise. I mean, there's so many things, and I was luckily able to escape, but not after so much manipulation and pain and heartbreak. I lost 20 pounds. It was not good. Like, it was horrible. But on the other side of that was this beautiful life that I've had and built for myself. And I didn't see it in the moment because that was the point. You have to choose yourself in the darkest of dark. You have to trust your gut. You have to know that there is a bigger picture. And if you don't, it's at the cost of what? The rest of your life and choices that they make that are going to impact you. So, I mean, that's all like common sense, right? But when you're in it, that's like not where we go because it's such a painful thing. And then there's the aftermath that you have to deal with. Now, luckily, I don't have children, again, as I said in the beginning, but if I did, that would be even harder to navigate.
One, thank you for being so vulnerable and sharing your story. That sounds so traumatic and it sounds so relatable, sadly, because so many women experience toxic relationships. We think that we're seeing a part of a person and we have feelings and emotions for that person and we get into relationships and then suddenly we start seeing this darker side of a person and a person that's manipulative, toxic in your case, started picking up bad habits of alcoholism and aggression and then becoming physically abusive. And at that point, you're already in love with them. You've invested your life and you've joined with them. And it's so difficult to become, disconnected with that person or unjoined. It's so difficult to separate from that person when you're already in it. And that's why the intuition, listening to your intuition is so important because the intuition, your higher self, universe, God, they're not going to steer you wrong. They know when you're not in alignment anymore. Did you have that an experience where like your intuition was right and you didn't want to listen to it or you didn't want it to be right because that meant you were going to lose that person?
Absolutely. Actually, my intuition started to kick in that relationship. And I have a very interesting relationship with my own intuition. I get flashes of things that happen. I get dreams or I get information just coming to me out of nowhere, like just drops in from nothing. But specifically with this relationship 8 years ago or whenever it was, I started having dreams. I started having dreams that he was cheating on me
Mm.
and recurring dreams. And it got to a point where it would be like night after night. And sometimes he'd be in the bed next to me. It wasn't even like when he would like disappear for days on end. It was like before that. And I remember waking up one day and being like, hey, I just keep having this reoccurring dream, like that you're cheating on me. And he just kind of stared at me blankly. He could have been high as I was telling him this. I have no idea, to be honest. But now that I'm saying it out loud, I'm like, oh, maybe he like just wasn't with it. And then I think I asked him, I'm like, are you? And he would be like, no, if I didn't want to be with you, I wouldn't be with you and I would leave. And in my head, I was like, where are you going to go? Like, you moved here because of me. Like, what? Like, actually, like, no. And that was a deep feeling that came out of nowhere. And then I kept having the dream. Fast forward, I think it was like Memorial Weekend or something, but there was a barbecue at our apartment complex and he was blackout and all of a sudden he disappeared. We got in a fight, he disappeared. And he had this smartwatch that he had left behind that was still connected to his phone. And I kept hearing this buzzing and I looked, it was the weirdest thing. I found it under the coffee table. We had this like huge shaggy rug and it was like buried in the shaggy rug under this coffee table. And I pulled it out and I found all the messages, everything. And it wasn't just one girl, it was 4 or 5 at that point. And that's when it all started to really like click. And I was like, I went back through the dates and it was, I think at this point, yeah, it must have been May. And I was finding things from February. But I think I started having the dreams in like March. So it was just this unfoldment of my dreams telling me something. And then that relationship ended. So goodbye at the end. But since then, I've had dreams, kind of premonition dreams and warning dreams. And I actually was with someone and I kept having the dream that I've never talked about this publicly, but I had a dream that he got me pregnant. Again, multiple dreams. And I ended the relationship with him because of that, because I knew that wasn't it. And there's so much more to that. And he had a kid already with someone else. And I didn't know if I wanted children before that, before him. And he kind of opened up that whole space for me. And now I do want children. And then I kept having that dream. And I just knew I couldn't with him. So that was a huge, huge reason that ended. Not from a toxic standpoint. Luckily, I mean, we had our stuff, but nothing like what I experienced 8 years ago. But yeah, the intuition and just knowing that deep feeling, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And wow, holy fuck. Like that's that is quite a story. And I love that our intuition can speak to us in different ways, right? We talk about being clairvoyant, clairsentience, clairaudience,
Mm-hmm.
and we receive downloads. And it's almost like the more we ignore it, the more it persists, right? Like, it's like, girl, like, I'm trying to speak to you. You need to
Mm-hmm.
trust me. You need to create a plan. If you are in a situation where, like, hey, you're not ready to get pregnant, you're not, or in a situation where you do have a toxic relationship, or you're just not ready for a relationship, you're going to know that. And the more we get to understand ourselves, the more we get to know who we are at a soul level and at our core, that's when we know, like, am I in alignment for what I want in my life? Am I who I want to be? And what do I need to do to get there? And the tuition is such divine guidance. It's going to really help you understand, is this relationship right for you? Are you communicating? Are you sharing your values, your morals? Are you understanding if your parenting is in alignment? Are your dreams similar? Is what you want for your life similar? And
Mm-hmm.
and if we know that there's disagreement or misalignment there, your intuition is going to know even sometimes before you actually know on the conscious level.
Right. It's like that funny thing where, I don't know if you've heard it, but like first the universe like taps you on the shoulder and then it whispers in your ear and then it shows up at your door and then it yanks you out of your door and throws you down the stairs. It's like, girl, wake up. Like, hello, what are we doing?
Yeah. And I'll share one of my wake up calls that I still did not listen to. Very similar experience to you, Jojo. And actually, we've never talked about this before, so this is
No, we
very
never have.
this is very ironic. So, I was in a polyamorous relationship. A lot of my audience knows this, and I got into a poly relationship with someone who was so misaligned for our relationship in values and behavior and everything. He was a functioning alcoholic. I'm talking about a fucking like half gallon of vodka in 2 days. Like, I shit you not. He would drink at work, drink and drive, like, that's all he did. And I felt like it was my responsibility to take care of this person because he was also suicidal, and
Mm.
I just made that my role. And my body resisted him so much. I got a body rash all over myself. I dropped 20 pounds. So I was 100 pounds at this
Oh my
point
God.
with this body rash. And I knew I needed to leave this relationship. But at that point, I was toxic within myself, knowing I didn't think I was valued. I didn't think I was worthy. I did not love myself. I really hated myself. And when we're in that low of a state, we do things that aren't healthy for ourselves, for our life, for our body, for our mental. And I continued with this relationship for another 3 years,
Oh my
just
gosh.
in
Wow.
fucking torture, verbally abused, emotionally abused, love bombing, manipulative. It was one of the worst times in my life, and I was missing out so much time with my children. And I didn't feel like I belonged anywhere. I didn't belong at home. I didn't belong with this person. I hated who I was. And the turning point for me was when you talk about intuition just throwing you down the stairs, telling you, wake the fuck up, girl. I was driving at the end of the road, heading back in a 45-minute drive to this person's house. And I stopped at the end of the road and I was just bawling my eyes out, like nearing panic attack, bawling my eyes around. My hands were so tight around the steering wheel, like I couldn't hear anything. I couldn't see anything. I was, I was filled with tears, but I had this visual dream or sense or what may have you, whatever you want to call it. I was drowning. I was drowning, and there was no hand that was going to save me, not ever. And I knew then that the only person that was going to save me was myself. And that was my intuition's last, like, desperate measure because I was literally killing myself inside. I was, physically weak, physically unhealthy. I was very disconnected from myself. I didn't love
Mhm.
myself. I hated myself. And that was my intuition saying, wake the fuck up, girl. You need to leave this person, or everything in your life is going to come crashing down.
Absolutely. Wow.
Yeah, it was insane. When we're in toxic relationships or relationships that are not healthy for us, there's this there's this rock bottom point that we hit. And that is like our intuition's desperate call for you to trust, regardless of the unknown, regardless of what may happen afterwards. You have to trust your intuition because being in the unknown is going to be safer and more secure than staying with a person who's abusive, manipulative, or in a relationship that simply isn't for you.
Oh, amen to that. Amen to that. It reminds me of first of all, sorry that oh my God. And I don't even know what to say. It brings me back to the relationship that I was in cuz I told myself, which was so silly. I should not have done this, but I did. I told myself that I was going to stay with living with my ex. This relationship like crumbled April, May-ish. And I was going to stay with him until our lease was up in mid-August. And in June, I woke up in the middle of the night with like 105 fever or something crazy where I like should have died. And I go to the hospital. Turns out I have a double kidney infection. I became septic and I was in the hospital for 3 days. They wanted to do a blood transfusion.
Oh
It
my
got
god.
really, really ugly, and my mom actually ended up flying across the country. I remember waking up in a daze. They were, like, pumping me full of fluids. I looked like I was 9 months pregnant. Like, if you saw the pictures, you would be like, "Who are you?" It was I was so underfed because my anxiety didn't let me eat. I was living in this hellhole with this guy, and yeah, became super sick. And I remember waking up in the middle of the night and I was, like, conscious but not conscious, and doctors were around me, and they were like, "We don't think she's gonna make it."
Oh my god.
And I remember hearing that, being alone in the hospital. My mom was, like, probably on her way at this point because I was in the emergency room for, like, 14 hours, I wanna say, before they admitted me, and I'm laughing now because it's like, how much more of a throw you down the stairs moment do you really need? And
Mm.
thank God I am healthy, I am okay. Yeah, that almost took me because I just didn't listen to myself and leave when I needed to. And I did not stay. I didn't live with him. I moved out. He was very mad because he had to take on the responsibility of the lease, and as he should, as he broke up everything. So, yeah, then my mom kind of saved me.
Wow. That's heavy. I'm so happy that you made it through that, and that just is such a wake-up call, and, you got out, but let's have a
Some
moment
people
of
don't.
exactly. I was just gonna say, let's have a moment to think about all the women that don't make it out of domestic violence relationships and toxic relationships who don't listen to their intuition and are stuck, or literally are forced to stay. And it's just an eye opener. Women all over and in America who live out the consequences of staying in those type of relationships. It's heartbreaking, truly, truly
Mhm.
heartbreaking.
I think I do wanna add that it's in our body, it's not in our mind. Our mind is gonna tell a million different stories, and you're gonna go back into thought patterns. But what the reality of any situation is what your body's telling you. When we quiet the noise of the outside world, and that's very hard to do in trauma, you can really know what is right for you. That inner voice, because some people might be like, well, I don't know how to hear my intuition. I definitely have been asked, like, well, how do you know? Like, how do you know it's not your mind? Because it comes out of nowhere. And it's this deep, trusting feeling where your mind might start having an argument with it. But
Mhm.
the reality of it is, like, you feel it so deep and you know exactly what you have to do. It's just a matter of doing it. And that voice in your head is going to be the one that tries to talk you out of it, no matter what.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with you. It's our intuition is oftentimes a very quiet voice where our ego, the part of us that wants us to be stuck in this abusive cycle, the thing that you are familiar with, the intuition is going to be quiet and subtle. And you're right. The intrusive thinking, those thought patterns are going to be very loud. You're going to have battles with it. Like it's going to be very loud. And when that's why I will advocate all day long for people to meditate because it's how I was able to get out of my toxic relationship because I started quieting those intrusive thoughts, the ego, and I started dropping into my body and becoming aware of what does my intuition sound like and how does it speak to me and relay message to me. And even if you're struggling to hear your intuition, tap into your body. What does your body feel like? Do you feel anxiety? Do you feel stress? Do you feel anger? like those are going to be some strong indicators that you're not in alignment with where you should be, who you're supposed to be with. So I think that's just super important to notice. And for all those mamas out there who are in the dating field right now, think about like what are some red flags that you know are your absolute fuck knows you will not deal with. Like for me, it's a liar. Don't fucking lie to me because that right there is the first indicator like this relationship's not going to work. So if they're lying, if they're not following through, if they don't have integrity, if they're breaking your boundaries, if they like are gaslighting you, manipulating, stonewalling, like all these things, right? That we kind of brush off like, okay, maybe I can teach them how to do that. Or maybe I can fix them. The fix them issue. Like, we're not
Well,
here, ladies, to fix the men on the planet. We're here to lead. We're here to lead. And I really have to say, if those things are happening and you see those red flags right away, listen to your intuition. Know that yes, breakups suck. They're hard, but what's even harder is getting into a toxic relationship and then trying to leave. So listen to your intuition at the beginning.
and it's so funny because we always know at the beginning. How many times do you talk to people and they're like, "Oh, well, we broke up because of this and this and this." And I'm like, "Well, when did that like show up in the first, or like when did that first show up?" And they're always like, "Oh, like right away." And it's like, "Hello? Red flag. You knew from the start, but you wanted to." And I'm not saying that's an excuse because then how do we get out of it later? Absolutely. But we know immediately, yes or no. Do we lie to ourselves? Yes. But if you have that initial dialogue with yourself and you really are honest with yourself and you peel back all the layers and you're like, is this person good for me? Heart, body, soul, mind, everything. Like just sit with that, breathe it in. You're going to get a response. You're going to get either a sick feeling in your stomach or ask for the feeling that you want to get when something isn't right for you. I started doing that in my last relationship and I said, and then I started doing it with everything else. But I said, make me feel sick if this is not right for me. And I
Mhm.
started getting physically ill. I got to get physically ill around other people as well. Even in work situations, I would be like, this is not good. Or, I mean, food substances for sure. Like dairy was like totally fine for me. But then I would eat certain things and then I would get like a skin rash and I would be like, I don't know what this is. And then my stomach would be like, that's the answer.
Yeah. No, I love that. I absolutely love that method of asking your body to show me. And I actually do this currently too in my when my partner and I we might, be having a tiff, right? Because there's a difference between being in a toxic relationship and just having like some unhealthy communication that you need to work on,
Mhm.
right? But I'll ask my body and I'll think of my partner. And when you think of this person, what is your body's response? What is your facial expressions? What is the sensations and the emotions that arise for you? And so when I think about my partner, I get this biggest smile on my face and I just I just love it. I believe that everybody should be tapping into this part of us that we not be so disconnected from ourselves,
Mhm.
that we actually become more connected because the more connected we become with ourselves, the more trust that we have. We know that regardless of what happens, I've got me. Like,
Yeah.
I am the ruler of my life. I am the leader. I get to make the choices in my life. I get to decide
Mhm.
if this relationship's not good for me or if it is good for me.
I love what you said about, like, just, like, thinking about that person and seeing how your body responds. That's in a relationship with someone that I've talked about, and anytime I would talk about him, my face would just drop, and I'd just be like, "Ugh." Like, my eyes would roll, I'd just be like, "No." Like, it would just be like that, and I've never actually had that experience where well, that's a lie, but until, recently, I guess. There's only been one person that just, like, apparently lights me up, says other people, and it's so true, and your body just knows, and anytime if I'm on the phone with someone or talking about this person, like, you can hear it in my voice, you can hear it in just the way I talk, I
Even
don't
now,
know.
I can see your smile like, "Ooh, we're broadening. My smile's so big right now." I
Yeah, no,
love it.
it's just you really do know, and then those other people, you're just like,
Meh.
deadpan. Like, I literally just thought about someone else, and all of that feeling that I was feeling just before, like, the smiley, disappeared because 'cause I'm just like, "Oh my god, you exhaust me."
Mhm. Mhm. So, mamas, tapping into your intuition is going to be the number one thing that guides you in this life. It is your inner GPS, it is your inner knowing. It is going to keep you safe and secure and loved. Like, it is all you, it is within you, your power, your liberation, your inner love. Like, it's going to be your highest and most divine guide. So, when you can hone in the skill of listening to your intuition and what that means for you, it's going to be life changing with your decisions, your relationships, where you go in this life, and how you lead yourself. It's got you.
You've got you.
You've got you. Amen. Yes, absolutely. So, I'm going to wrap it up with if you are a mama who is struggling in her relationship, just notice what's happening in your body. What is happening to yourself on a soul level? And what do you really truly know about this relationship? Is this relationship worth working through and bridging the gap and communicating and doing what you need to do, what you both need to do to heal the relationship and prosper in the relationship? Or is your intuition telling you, get the fuck out?
Run, girl.
Run, run. Yes. Thank you, JoJo, for being so vulnerable and sharing what it means to be intuitive and what it means to listen to your body and what it means to fucking fall down the stairs with your intuition telling you, hey, girl, like, wake up. I appreciate you so much.
Well, thank you for allowing me the safe space to share that. I've never shared that before.
Of course. That's what we do here on Moms Unboxed. We have real, raw, honest conversations. We are unboxing some of the most vulnerable topics there are. All right, mamas, that's it for this week. Thank you for joining me for another week of Moms Unboxed. And don't forget to live a liberated, sensual, and unboxed life. Until the next time, sunshine. Thank you again for joining me for another episode of Moms Unboxed. If you have a topic or relationship question, connect with me at I am Melanie Caroline. And don't forget to follow Moms Unboxed. May you live a liberated, sensual, and unboxed life. I'll be chatting with you next Wednesday for another episode. Until the next time, sunshine.